This man has borrowed the Royal Air Force to photograph a dream. The best engineers, the best pilots, he's waited 5 years to bring them all together. The location is Lincolnshire. His chauffeur is a wing commander stationed in Wales, and the plane has been flown in from Scotland. As a flight of fancy, it's hardly economy class. This is his quarry, the Red Arrows. In his imagination, they're more spectacular, more frightening than anyone's ever seen them. He's got one chance to turn a fanciful idea into a brilliant photograph. The camera plane must be manoeuvred to within 12 yards of the Red Arrows as they come out of a high-speed dive. Another plane's length, and they'd actually be touching. Neither the photographer, nor his pilot, nor the Red Arrows have tried anything like this before. In the next moment, they'll all find out if it's possible. Give an Englishman a camera, and sooner or later he'll point it at the sky. The British are potty about planes. They get arrested abroad for taking pretty holiday snaps of military aircraft. This lot have turned out in their thousands at a grass airstrip near Biggleswade, and already their lenses have steamed up at the sight of the star attraction, the Red Arrows.
And now as they come towards us, look at the camera, coming up, watch all the smoke in the split, all the things up there anyway.
The Red Arrows are the Gene Shrimptons, the Jerry Halls of the aeronautical world. Their job is to strut their stuff through the world's skies, selling a dream of glamour. Who dares, flies. 2.5 million camera shutters click every year they appear. After 20 years of air displays, you wouldn't think there was a new picture left to take. But one man thinks the best picture is still to come. He's Richard Cooke, action photographer.
Well, I've had this idea for a fantastic picture of the Red Arrows. It's never been done before, and it's basically a shot of the Red Arrows coming towards you and going over your head, which is a very difficult position to fly, but the aircraft are going to look as if they're coming towards you and then braking just over the top of you, but in the air, not on the ground. So you get clouds and the horizon sideways and the smoke coming in the side of the picture. It would be fantastic, if it works.
Scampton Air Base in Lincolnshire. The RAF don't lend the Red Arrows to just anyone. 9 Hawk aircraft worth around £20 million, and the best pilots in Britain, if not the world. Even if Richard can persuade them to do it, he'll only be allowed to play with them for one trip. They're the aeronautical equivalent of Olympic athletes. They train 3 times a day in the weeks before the display season, and over the year they'll loop and barrel roll their way through the equivalent of 10 continuous, stomach-churning days. This is the pilot Richard's got to persuade, the Red Arrow's new team leader, Squadron Leader Richard Thomas. He's starting his second 3-year tour of duty with the team, and although the Red Arrows exist to be a kind of flying advertisement, he must be convinced the mission is safe. So far, he's keen.
Richard, why is this photograph, expensive as it is, worth it for the Red Arrows? Because it must cost a fortune.
Well, first of all, it doesn't cost a fortune. The main reason it is important for us, or it is a good project for us, is firstly, we should get a good photograph at the end of it. Secondly, we get a certain amount of space in the colour supplement. Thirdly, and most importantly, we end up by being a major part of a half-hour television programme.
Who are you actually trying to impress?
Well, what we're trying to do, of course, I mean, the primary reason for our being is to try and recruit people into the Royal Air Force. So hopefully, some of the youngsters that are seen, who will see this particular film, will end up by joining the Air Force at some stage.
Richard works for most of Fleet Street's colour supplements. For this picture, he's chosen the Sunday Express. The man who's buying, Bryn Campbell, is an ex-war photographer who doesn't think any picture's worth risking your life for, and he's worried that Richard may be pushing his luck too far.
Different is to photograph backwards and up.
so that I'm looking slightly underneath the formation, under the chin. And the overall feeling of the picture is that they're going to take the top of your head. It's going to be more frightening. They're going to be more of a threat. They're going to actually look more dangerous and more close.
But,
we won't take any risks. I mean,
I mean, this is like three-dimensional chess at 500 miles an hour or something. You say you're not taking any risk. I mean, you obviously are. It's just a question of just don't push your luck. I mean, that we don't want.
For a man who never set out to be a photographer, Richard Cooke, at the age of 39, is doing quite well out of taking snaps. He owns a manor house and a few acres near Northampton. He started out as an inventor of gadgets like a lockable crash helmet. Now he invents ways of taking pictures. Is this typical of the kind of thing that you do?
yes, it's typical of the sort of thing that I like to try and do, and that is to find a new angle to shoot something from. And in this case, I wanted to take something very, very close to the water skier. And in the end, what I did was hang a camera from the rope. And obviously it was swinging about, but I was sitting in the back of the boat and I could choose the moment when it had stopped swinging.
Sounds quite tricky. And this, an advert?
Yes, that was for a 48-sheet poster. And what I was trying to do here was to get a real feeling of speed, and that means really shooting it at a fast speed. In fact, it's over 100 miles an hour. And in this case, to get a suitable camera car to fit the rig onto, I had to buy it and sell it at a loss at the end of the job.
Obviously, you can't buy planes. This looks quite an expensive shot.
Yes. No, a shot like this can only be done with the full cooperation of the RAF, and this was an RAF recruitment ad. The trick here is to take a dynamic picture which looks dangerous without taking any risks at all, really. You have to work out the angles very, very carefully and make sure you get them right.
To carry his camera, Richard needs a plane like this, a Hunter. It can fly as fast as the Red Arrows, and more importantly, it uses a brake parachute, which could be removed to house the camera.
Richard, you're not going to be this close, are you?
I hope so. It's going to depend on Richard, really, to see how close he's happy to be with all the other aircraft behind him. But this is where I hope to be, yes, if Richard can hack it.
5 steps from the plane at the moment.
Yes. Well, we'd be about 3 feet down from here. And Richard thinks he can make it. I think what we'll have to do is to test it just as with 2 aircraft. And if he's happy, or if he's not happy, then we'll have to adapt the lenses and things to accommodate him. But it should look fantastic. It's going to blow your mind. It's going to look terrific. Really it is. You have to wait till you see it. Right, well, this hopefully is the sort of thing that I'm after. It's a head-on shot, close, but this time it's from below the aircraft, which is obviously going to give you a lot of problems.
Yes.
Looking at where we can put a camera, it looks as if we can put a camera here in the brake chute housing on a Hunter.
Yes.
Which will give us the sort of angle that will do that. But your problem is going to be formating high, presumably. What sort
Yes.
of, do you think you're going to be able to handle that, or what do you think?
Well, we can, but obviously what one's going to be very aware of is slipstream and,
Right.
and jet wash
That's right.
as well. And, you know, not only for myself, of course, but for the other 8 aircraft around me. If you look at the distance from that cross there to the...
The team leaders worry that the planes behind and below him will be hit by the jet exhaust of the plane carrying the camera.
Yes. Well, the camera's right on the end here, for a start.
Yes.
You
Yeah.
don't need to be as close as that cross. I actually got a model of a Hawk here,
Yes.
which, if we can imagine that in there, I think your position will be something like that.
There's a conflict of interest. Richard's trying to edge his camera nearer to get a better picture. The team leader wants him further and further back for the sake of safety. Too far back, and the picture will be so dull, it won't be worth the effort.
If I was to be up around there, that's about an aircraft length almost, isn't it?
Can you just hold that a second?
Which is in about the same sort of... And I'd be just looking over the nose there, wouldn't I? Looking down at it.
Yes,
But see-
you can move to the side a bit more. If you move it this way.
If I move that way,
Yeah.
I mean, that gives you a better look. But if we were to fly a flat formation there,
Okay,
we could probably handle it, say...
Right.
But that is, it look very close in the air. we've obviously got some compromising to do here, because it looks as though the lens that you're thinking of using would put us... We'd be little dots on the horizon, wouldn't we?
Yeah, that's right. We're not really in the same ballpark yet.
No.
Right, so the camera will be angled off like this, so that the wingspan of the aircraft runs across the diagonal. That'll give me more chance to get the blokes in the back in the picture.
You're obviously going to be lower down.
Yes, that's right, but it wants to be on this radius.
There'll be no problems formatting at that angle, but of course, as I said, you've got to be further away.
Quite honestly, I had hoped we'd be able to get closer than that. I have to work with it, so I have to change the lenses and that sort of thing and make what he can do work.
And the only way we'll know how much further away, really, is by trying it.
2 weeks after the first negotiations, the go-aheads have been given. The Red Arrows can do it. This Hunter has been borrowed from a base in Scotland, and Richard's been given the RAF pilot he desperately wanted. The plan is to fit the camera and go for a trial flight this afternoon, then try for the mission proper with the entire Red Arrow squadron tomorrow morning. The plane can stay for only 24 hours. Already its pilot, Wing Commander Brian Hoskins, has flown from his base in Wales to Scotland to pick up the plane and fly to Lincolnshire. If he's tired, he doesn't show it.
Hello, Richard. How are you? Fine.
He and Richard have flown many photographic missions before. Brian's one of the few, in this case, the few who've led the Red Arrows. Now he's 6 weeks from the end of his RAF flying career.
Yes, I should think we've got a few hours there, haven't we?
Yes, they're going to need 4 hours, actually.
Well, I would like to think they're better doing it slightly quicker this time. Back a touch. Can you go back a touch? Hold it there.
Removing the tail cone of a Hunter seems alarmingly easy, like opening a suitcase. They're taking it away to be fitted with a camera mount.
You just support the weight and gradually bring it back. It is a bit hot. That's it. Bit the weight. Touch it.
2 hours later, all the brake parachute equipment's been removed, and they're ready to fit the custom-built camera housing.
People have been very jealous of the sort of pictures that I do. I think when I started, I simply lied about how I did it. I said it was some new sort of lens.
That's the way it's going to be. Fantastic.
Richard's brought along his own engineer, Alan Voyle, to make sure everything works. It's the kind of attention to detail that makes the difference between a good picture and a great one.
We want to turn it in a rotary plane, we'll have to take the fairing off.
Get ready now.
4 hours after landing, the tail cone's ready to go back on the plane. But there's only 2 hours left to carry out the vital test flight.
I'll see where we stand with the weather and the time. I'll see if we're actually going to make this.
The idea is to go up with only 3 planes, the Hunter and 2 of the Red Arrows. But suddenly Richard can see nothing but problems. The camera might not work. The mount doesn't look right.
Richard, is it vibration?
The basic platform that it's on flexes, which means that if any pressures get to the lens and start waggling it about, the back plate's going to let it waggle about.
6, 7, 8, 9.
Probably the big difference is that I think visually about it, and I don't confuse photography with flying. It's a different thing. I leave the flying to them, and I take the pictures.
This is the line.
Yeah.
More to the point, if you could try and remember the way the lens looks in terms of that.
It may be the last minute, but Squadron Leader Thomas is still negotiating the distance.
This distance here is about 8 yards, is it?
Perhaps a bit less than that.
Yeah. And I'm going to go out to about 14, 15.
They still can't go. Getting the camera to work is taking longer than they thought. It seems to be an electrical fault.
A few more time.
You're running out of time, aren't you?
That's right. We need to be airborne by 5:15. Got 15 minutes. 5 minutes to fit the cow. It's looking very close to forgetting it for today.
When I'm high, I'm as high as you get. And when I'm down, I'm awful. You know, you just can't afford to fail, not even once. It's the little things that can make you fail.
I think we ought to go.
Right.
We'll see. And if the pictures are blurred, then we'll have to think overnight. At least we've got overnight. But if we delay any longer, we're going to miss this socially today.
Right, clear to operate on and off, please, Chief. That's it, it's working.
I've changed my mind. It's going to be terrific.
The camera on the back of the Hunter can't move, and Richard won't be able to look through the lens. It's like strapping a camera to the back bumper of a car and trying to guess the perfect shot by looking in the rear-view mirror. The Red Arrow's team leader is joined by a second plane which is going up to observe exactly what happens in midair. They've got to make sure that the maneuver's safe when they bring in the whole squadron, that the jet exhaust won't send some of the planes careering off course.
We'll be coming left. Coming left.
The purpose of the test is to see whether the team leader can get close enough and in the right position for Richard's picture to work.
Easing up very gently. Coming left.
He's still more than a plane's length away. "15 minutes after takeoff, the Hunter's test flight is over. The camera still looks secure.
How'd it go, Richard?
The weather was the big problem. Dreadful.
Do you think you got anything at all?
Oh yeah, I mean it'll work as a test. I hope it will anyway. We'll have to go and have a look.
The electrics are secure. Everything's there. All we can do is wait to see the shot, see if it worked.
Film's day.
From the beginning to the end of the flight, Richard's only been thinking about his camera. He may be one of the few civilians with his own NATO flying suit, but he's no joyrider. The pilots respect him because he never changes his mind in midair, and because he only wants results.
Oh dear, it's picked up some oil. Where's it picked that up from? Little bits of oil on the lens, we're going to have to watch that. The formation flying is incredible. If there's anything like it, it was just sort of, it was like a plastic sticker on the mirror, it just didn't move an inch.
I'd like to do a pose.
It worked, okay. Everything worked. Quite warm.
The instant film they've used for the test flight is processed on the spot. The pictures won't be the same quality as the ones he'll take tomorrow, but at least they'll give him an idea of his end result.
Obviously there are problems with the jet efflux from the Hunter.
There are.
Well, there are going to be.
Yeah.
But I'll frame it down a bit, rather than have you messing about with your position.
Push the camera down.
The pictures show that the team leader's plane is almost as close as Richard had hoped, and he's still used the wide-angle lens he'd always wanted to, 24 millimeters. One plane's difficult enough, but another 8 have got to be squeezed into the same space for the real thing.
Leaves bags of room out on the right-hand side.
Yes, it does.
Right-hand side, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
If you can just push me up. Push me up.
We need about another 5 degrees.
It's the following day, and almost from first light, Richard and his engineer have been working on fine adjustments to the camera mount. This is where Richard's science ends and his art begins. A degree too much tilt, and he'll lose half a squadron of planes.
How close are you going to be to the photograph that you planned originally, the drawing that you made?
I still don't know. The problem is going to be getting all of the aircraft in the right relative position, the right part of the frame.
But you're using the lens that you planned, aren't you?
Yes, but I had to compromise quite a lot in terms of the distance.
How far away is the lead plane going to be now? The team leader?
About 12 yards, I would say.
And you ideally wanted how close?
About 8.
So the weather at the moment then is we're on runway 23, surface wind is 230 at 7, just about down the runway, and the cloud seems to be around about 3,000 feet, I think, at the moment.
It's the final briefing. There'll be only one sortie and the crew will have to change their formation to avoid the jet wash of the camera plane.
Is it possible for the left-hand side to fly slightly more swept in swept Big 9? Can you do that? Right-hand side, I think, stay the same. So if anybody goes US, it'll be a double shuffle through me. Start, we will check in at the normal check-in time of 18. Thank you.
Richard's waited 5 years for this moment. If his planning's gone wrong, the odds are he'll never be invited back.
I am terrified of screwing up. To get that much egg on your face is such a disgrace. I'll never ever push a pilot or ask a pilot to do something he doesn't want to do. I never say, come on, you can get a bit closer. And that, I think, is foolhardy. And people are going to get killed if you do that. I have seen people killed having their picture taken.
Bridge 111, taxi runway 23, right on QC 1019. Laser taxi for 23, 1019. The surface wind is 270, 1 Red hours, clear takeoff.
They'll climb to 8,000 feet before Richard can even think about pressing the trigger to activate his camera. He'll still only be able to guess when everyone's in position by looking through his cockpit mirror. The idea is to get into formation and stay there throughout the flight. The Red Arrows are forming what they call a swept Big 9 formation, a huge arrowhead. Brian Hoskins has to make the camera plane the tip of the arrow.
Very gently right.
The team leader's already got the hunter in his sights. They're going for a shot. Smoke on. Squadron leader Thomas must be able to see not just the camera, but the lens.
Happy to climb. Take a bit of power. Red, but smoke on.
Richard wants his pilot to angle his plane so that the Red Arrows are seen climbing out of a 400-mile-an-hour dive, leaving a giant arcing smoke trail behind them. He also wants the horizon to appear to be diagonal, so the planes must be banking as he presses the trigger. On the 9th attempt, everything's looking good. On one side, £20 million worth of the finest military hardware. On the other, a £5 roll of film. After 20 minutes, he's used all 36 shots.
Richard.
Final trip, how'd we go?
It seemed to go very well. We did the best we could.
Do you think it's worked?
It's in the lap of the gods, really. I hope so, because it'll be a beautiful picture if it did. Terrific. Now then, next thing to do is get it back into the... There it is, back in the cassette.
Now what happens to that?
It is. Well, it'll go to Paris to be processed tomorrow, and we'll get it back the day after.
So from now on, I take it you can't do a damn thing about what's in there.
Absolutely. We all did our best, and so there it isn't.
He's had 2 days of waiting for his film to be processed in Paris at the only laboratory in Europe equipped to handle it. It's 2 days in which to worry.
You know, you almost don't want to see the pictures. You actually don't want to have to own up. It is just like waiting for punishment.
6 o'clock every evening, this building attracts professional photographers like moths to a flame. They arrive like expectant parents, stalkers of wildlife, fashion photographers, camera sharks with a deadline. Not the best company to soothe Richard's nerves.
What do you think could have gone wrong?
I framed the shot so tight that if I either guessed the angle wrong, or if Richard Thomas was flying even a foot higher, I could lose the nose of the aircraft. And as it is, if I can get all of the aeroplanes in, it can be a great shot. If I lose them off the bottom, it's still a very good shot. If I lose the nose, I haven't got a shot.
Would you feel you'd let people down?
Yes, I would.
I mean, who most of all? The pilots?
Yes. That's really what it's all about. That's the relationship between me and the pilots.
Who's first?
Oh, what next?
TV Times and Brain.
Who's next, please?
Come to Richard first.
Tell us, Richard, what do you see?
It's so near. It's so near.
Is it blurred?
Is that good or bad? That looks good.
It's near. It's close. It's getting very close. The image is what I want, but if I can find one where they're just a little bit tidier. Oh. Oh. Look at it. It's all right, isn't it?
Superb.
Look at that.
Your hands are shaking.
I know. It's close. I tell you, it was close. Look at that. How close the nose is to the edge of the frame. That was close, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It is there,
Yeah,
actually, isn't
absolutely,
it? That's
yeah.
the only thing that mattered to
Are
me.
you not going to bother with the rest then, or?
No, I don't need to see this. Sort of that later. That's it. That's the one.